Hello, hello, hello. We got to make sure that we are rolling, rolling, rolling. What is up? Yep, we're on. We're on. 3, 2, 1. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is G being silly. We are going to talk about another event coming up. It's not something new entirely, but kind of. So, this is what this is. This is about Pluto. It's about power, it's government, it's big businesses, it's corporations. Think of big, think of just like sick power and sick money, right? Pluto, when it's in the sign of Capricorn, Pluto itself, all by itself, is power. And it's an intensification of power, right? But when it goes from Aquarius energy back into Capricorn energy, which is exactly what it's doing. And it's happening soon. Yeah. Like right now, I'm recording this video in the beginning of June, and it's a countdown. It's like 10 days away where Pluto gets to 29 degrees and 59 minutes of the sign of Capricorn. So, what the hell is this going to mean? Right? We've all been consumed by what is it going to mean when Pluto's at 0 degrees of Aquarius. But what does it mean when Pluto goes back because it's retrograding, right? What does it mean when Pluto is retrograding back into Capricorn? Well, somebody once asked me, and I'm going to do it. I haven't done it yet, and this is kind of an extension of this, but the question was, can you do a video about retrogrades? Just retrogrades in general, because we always talk about the Mercury retrogrades, right? A Mercury retrograde always gets a video. You don't normally hear about the Venus retrograde, the Mars retrograde. Well, you do hear about Mars retrogrades, but here we're going to have one about a Pluto retrograde, right? But the person's specific question was, what about retrograde planets in my chart? What the hell does that mean? What is the significance of that? So I am going to do a separate video for that. Okay. But I think if you pay attention to some of the main themes, you'll see that they are similar with each retrograde, regardless of the planet. Obviously, the different planet tells you, the flavor and the tones, right? But the retrograde within itself kind of is the same. It's a rerun, it's a redo. It's like something we're going over. Okay. Now, to be clear, for that person's question, how would that make any sense in my birth chart when I was born with this? So you're telling me I'm redoing this? I don't know. Are you? Tricky, right? Well, we'll save that for that next video. But this one is going to talk about Pluto going into Capricorn. So Pluto going back into Capricorn. Capricorn is boss energy. It's the boss. It's somebody in charge. It's the person that makes the rules. I set up the rules, the regulations, the borders, the boundaries. And so Pluto being all about intense power, right? Going back into Capricorn, which is like business, right? Government. It's people who have usually a lot of power, who wield a lot of power. And if Pluto goes back into it, it is typically about taking another look at those who've had power and the way in which they used their power. Because it's reviewing. It's a Pluto review. So a really good way to look at this is, have you ever read an article, or back in the day, there used to be like people who did movie reviews, and there probably is today. I honestly haven't, yeah, something with a tomato, I'm hearing. But back in the day, it used to be like Siskel and Ebert. Like if you were going to go see a movie, I don't know, everything's turning like orangey. Anyway, maybe it's just me. I don't know. The lighting I was talking about. So back in the day, it was Siskel and Ebert. And if you were going to go see a movie, you would be like, well, like, did Siskel and Ebert give it like 2 thumbs up, and sometimes one would give it a thumb down and the other one would give it a thumbs up. But the point was they would give the reasons why. But before them being able to give the reasons why, they had to go watch the movie. And sometimes they would have to like rewatch the movie. And then they would sit down and give the review. They would, hold on, I did know this was on, but I forgot. There we go. So what we have to understand is we are doing a review. And sometimes it might not be so obvious, again, pertaining to a birth chart, but again, that'll be a separate video. But I'm trying to give you clues in this video, right? So that you can kind of start figuring that out for yourself in your own chart. And then when I have the video, you can get your confirmation and be like, oh yeah, I was spot on. Thank you. Right. Or maybe there'll be just some extra tidbits that I mentioned that you might not have thought of. Okay. So when we have Pluto going in and doing a review, it will be reviewing those who were in power. And what did they do with their power? How did they use that power? And Pluto is very interested, because when Pluto touches in with you, it gives you great power. It gives you great power. So think about those who we literally handed them power. And how did we do that? How do we hand somebody power? We vote for them, or we don't vote at all, or we vote for the opponent. Like there's a lot of different ways, right? My eyes, yesterday I had the worst problem with this eye. Not a problem, but I have high sensitivities. So anyway, somebody was cleaning something in the house and like the air conditioning was on, all the windows were closed, and it was just like my eyes were like, I wish I could rip them out and just put them somewhere safe. And then when it was all clear, I could put them back in. Anyhow. So Pluto is about power, and it's about, I've given you power, and now I'm here to see what have you done with that power. And by doing that, I do a review. I watch, and I might have to look at it again. I might have to go over the stats again. I might have to reread the book. I might have to rewatch the movie. I might have to just review. Just simply review and see how that worked out. And see, what did you do? And was there any abuse with the power that I gave you? So when we give people power, whether that's because we voted for them, or whether we want to think about this or not. And again, this is not to be a political thing, but it's just to keep it real. This is how it applies in our life. Like this is how it shows up in our world. When we think of big government and business, right? Big business, think about that, right? When we think about how, we complain about prices, how we complain about certain rules, right? Like, well, these are those things. And we have to kind of take an active role in that. And our way of taking an active role is by voting, right? So some people decide, well, there's nobody worthy, so why bother? I'm not going to vote. And then some people say things like, well, it doesn't matter anyway. And anyhow, this isn't to split hairs, to go through that in any way, shape, or form. I'm just giving examples of how, believe it or not, we hand people power. We hand it to them. So Pluto going back into Capricorn says, I'm here, I'm Siskel, I'm Ebert, and I'm here to find out, to take another look at what's been done, or what's been not done, or just what exactly has been done. Okay. Think about that. What exactly has been done? And Pluto at the highest level is altruistic. So Pluto is saying we are really striving for the best for all involved. And many times the best for all involved is nearly impossible. But our intentions can still be for the best for all involved. But what happens if we can't get the best for all involved? Then the next tier down from that is the best good for the most involved. And I know people don't want to hear that. I know that's hard, because that means somehow, somewhere, somebody's left out. And that's the truth. That's the reality of our life. We never get to have everything we want, when we want it, how we want it. Like, it's just never like that. So there's always a give and take. There's always a compromise. There is always a son of a bitch. I thought I was getting this, and then it ended up being this, and it just wasn't exactly what I wanted, and so there's always that thing where we even, some of us may even feel like we're cheated in some way at some point in time. Okay. And so Pluto going through big business and government and just people who have the ability to set the standards and the rules and the regulations. It's going to be taking a look at how exactly all that went down. And think of Pluto as, like, I call it, the bell is tolling. That's Pluto coming when the bell tolls, because if Pluto's coming through, it's coming through to clean up. That's what it does. It's coming, they call it the rotor-rooter of the zodiac. Think of what a rotor-rooter does, if any of you aren't familiar, because that's, I think, a name of a business, actually. And it's, it's something you use to clean out the plumbing in your home. Like if you got a toilet and it's all stopped up, sometimes they'll come in with the thing. Back in the day, my dad used to be like, "Oh, I'll go get a snake from the hardware store," and he'd bring it back to the house and he would just snake that damn thing out, right? And so I think the rotor-rooter is the same thing, but it's like way longer. It can go further into the pipe, right? And so I think pretty much that's what the rotor-rooter people do. They come out and they call it the rotor-rooter because it's kind of like drilling down. It's kind of like that snake going down, 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 and really getting to the root of something that's below and that's hidden. And what happens is it reveals, what does it reveal? Right? Oh man, there was a damn pamper down there, right? Oh damn, somebody dropped a toy, right? When you were small, or growing up with siblings or whatever, like, or if you got little ones around the house, sometimes they throw shit down there and they flush it and they like, oh look, they think it's all fun and games. It's like, oh shit, literally, like holy crap. So it reveals what was hidden. It reveals the deep, the dark, and likely the ugly. Think about sewage. It is deep, it's dark, it's ugly, it's rot. It's rot. Matter of fact, not too long ago, well, probably in the last year, there was a senator, and that he used that word, rot. And it was like, wow. I was like, damn, this dude, he's talking like Pluto here. And so we're going to look at the chart, because when Pluto comes, when Pluto comes, it's like the bell is tolling. Another example of Pluto is, when you're in the garden and you're like, got vegetables growing or whatever, and you're trying to you're like, what son of a, look at all these damn weeds that are popping up, and it's like, you got to go in there sometimes. Sometimes your hands don't do a good enough job because you've pulled it and you come back and the damn thing, like, you're a week later, you're like, what the hell happened? There's more weeds. How is that possible? The trick is you didn't get the root, because you can just pull it off. But as long as the root is still in the ground, that damn thing will just grow right back, because you never thoroughly got it out. You didn't go down to the root level and pull it out. And so sometimes you need a tool, literally. You need a tool, and you need to get in there with the little shovel, and you need to like do that whole thing and dig a little bit until you're pulling all the damn roots out of it and you get it out of there. And then you're like, okay, I did all that work. I shouldn't have to see any more of that crap. It's done. And that is the same as Pluto. It keeps going back and reviewing and looking at things, and every level, every time it goes back, it's digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And I'm mentioning this because this particular Pluto retrograde is the first time ever in our lifetimes, the first time ever in our lifetime, nobody is breathing today that has lived to witness a Pluto retrograding back into Capricorn energy. Nobody. If you want a little bit of history, go back to the 1700s, especially if the USA is, you can go look at the history of the United States and you can see. And for wherever you're watching from, wherever that is, look at the history of your country and see what was going on during that time, right? 1770, right? See what was going on. See what was going on. Declaration of Independence, like there was just a whole lot of things happening. The beginning, the forefathers of the nation, like there was a whole lot of stuff happening. And it was getting to the root of things, but it was also about how are we going to use this power? How are we going to use this power? So Pluto retrograding back into Capricorn is doing a review. It's taking a look. And not only is it the first time that this will ever happen, but it's not going to be the only time. Pluto is going to go back to 27 degrees of Capricorn. And then it's going to go forward again into Aquarius. Yep, it goes to like 2 something. And if I haven't done the video already, I think I did. I might not have. I know I have quite a few of those already out, but I'll have more specific videos for when we get closer to those times. Just like I'm doing this one now. We're about to go. We got 10-day countdown. We're about to go into a Pluto retrograding into Capricorn. But this won't be the last time. Pluto goes back into Aquarius, hits 2 degrees, and then backs up again, does another retrograde, and goes back into Capricorn again. Now, I'm talking about that to say how important this is, because this tells us that Pluto itself is going to cross over the critical degree, 29 degrees, a critical degree. 29 degrees and 0 degrees of Aquarius. 29 degrees Capricorn, 0 degrees of Aquarius. Pluto goes over that the first time, which it already did in the beginning of 2023, right? And then it backs up, and then it goes forward again in the beginning of 2024, right? And then another year goes by, and it backs up, and then it goes forward again. So every time it goes forward and goes backwards, you follow? It goes forward one time, so that's 1 pass. It goes backwards, so that's the 2 pass. It has to go forward again, that's the 3 passes. At 0 degrees of Aquarius and 29 degrees of Capricorn, this will happen 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. That means Pluto 9 times is crossing over, whether it's forward or backwards. 9 times it's crossing over 29 degrees of Capricorn and 0 degrees of Aquarius. And it's not just the 0, but I mentioned the 0 because that is a critical degree. And I know some of you may have something at 1 degrees of Aquarius and 2 degrees of Aquarius. And yes, that will be significant. And we will get into that in the future. But the 29 degrees of Capricorn and 0 degrees of Aquarius is very significant. So let me pull this chart up so we can take a peek at this. And we can kind of just look at some of the things that are going to be happening. You know, some of the additional things that are going to be happening.